Welcome to Nacho Fitness Coach.
This is Nacho Ordinary Fitness Podcast.
I'm Sarah, and I'm Nacho Typical Fitness Expert.
And I'm Kaylee, and I'm Nacho Average Fitness Beginner.
We're here to spice up your fitness journey
with some humor, a little knowledge, and a couple glasses of wine.
We're here to prove that getting fit doesn't have to suck.
So whether you're a seasoned athlete or a couch potato,
we've got some tips, tricks, and unconventional advice for you.
Let's redefine fitness together
and learn to balance fitness and fun. So Kaylee, we have Michael Lynn with us today as a guest.
Yes.
So excited.
We are so excited to have him here.
So we first met Michael. Michael, would you like to just say a quick hello?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Yeah. Michael Lynn, super excited to be on your podcast on the other side.
Yeah, that's right. So we first had an opportunity to meet Michael when we were guests on the Built by Fitbod podcast, where Michael was one of the three hosts that we had a chance to talk to, really kind of showcasing and highlighting Kaylee's journey as she's been kind of getting into the fitness realm, I guess, whatever
world,
journey, whatever you want to call it, through the Fitbod app. And so we enjoyed that experience and wanted also then to have the opportunity to have Michael to talk to you all or to talk to us more about his journey, his experience into fitness. So his background a little bit, he's a software developer and a podcaster, but his real story is really in his recovery and kind of that crossover from recovery, fitness, and kind of how that's played into your journey, right? So we're just going to talk about it.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share some details. And I got to say, I love your podcast. You guys are killing it.
Thank you.
You know, we just don't know what we're doing, but we're having fun. So
that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Come on.
Alan said he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Alan's like, wait a second. I know what I'm doing. I'm a very seasoned and talented producer.
Where did you get Alan? We need to get Alan for the
We do need to get Alan. I know. Well, you know what? Actually, he needs to be a guest on one of our episodes here coming up soon because he has a little bit of a health and wellness story as he's just been listening in on our conversations and helping us. So anyways, we might get him to turn on the mic here eventually. Yet this season. So, okay. So I think I'm really eager to listen to your story because I think it is definitely something that can be talked about. You know,
it needs to be talked about.
It needs to be talked about. Yeah.
And that's what the way that I met Michael and the other Fitbod hosts was, in this Facebook fitness group, where we're using a specific app or whatnot. But, everybody has a story. And so, it's like you see Michael as I see him, this, super fit, muscular, and
you think he's always had it together. He knows exactly what he's doing and he's always had it together.
Yeah.
Right?
I think sometimes people that, look a certain way or live a certain lifestyle, kind of get glossed over as far as like, oh, they have it all together. But we all have a story. We all have a journey. And a lot of people in the fitness world are there for a reason that would actually really surprise you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it does. It's not always been in the same spot.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think I've always been relatively healthy. But I reached a period in my life where, I didn't look like I look today. And I think you're right. There's kind of this assumption that if you're really fit, that it comes easy to you. Mm-hmm. And that's just not the case. It's just not the case. I started my fitness journey, I guess in my 30s. And I did it as an attempt to stop drinking and drugging or like stave off and just kind of hold it together. I started running long distance. And when I first started to get serious about fitness, I was still very active. I was drinking every day. And I thought that if I set some goals around fitness, around running specifically, that it would be easier to not drink. And I set a goal to run a marathon, and I picked up this great book called 4 Months to a 4-Hour Marathon. And a 4-hour marathon is a pretty aggressive goal.
Yes, it is.
So I set that goal, and I started running. I did the whole program, and I was right on track. But what I found was that you kind of peak around your distance midway, and I was running 13 miles, and I found that 13 miles from my house. First of all, I live in Yardley on the East Coast of the United States. Little town called Yardley, beautiful town. And it's exactly 13 miles from another town called New Hope. So I would set off in the mornings, Saturday, and I would run 13 miles from Yardley to New Hope. And the plan was to have my wife come pick me up and drive me back home after I ran the 13 miles. And that worked great. But as I mentioned, I had a penchant for drinking. And I found myself in New Hope as the bars were beginning to open for the day. And I decided that, well, beer has carbohydrates and I need to recarb, right, after a long run. So I found myself running this massive distance and then sitting at the bar waiting for my wife. And of course, I would have to have a couple beers before I made the call. And I guess long story short, I managed to train for a marathon, still getting drunk pretty much every day. And man, that was a really rough period. So
yeah.
As I drink my energy drink.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
My new addiction.
Right.
So I've always been pretty goal focused and I guess you'd call me type A. But I take most things that I do to extremes, and that really led into drinking and some illicit drugs. I'll mention that, and I make that part of my story because I think it's important to kind of break the stigma.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't always look the way I look today, and when I finally made the decision that okay, so setting goals to run marathons is not going to get me sober. It's not going to keep me sober. I decided to get sober, and it took a while. I had the help of a program. And once I did that, I replaced drinking with eating. And I was eating a cheesecake every week. My wife lovingly made me a cheesecake. And I was eating a lot of sweets. And my diet was just out of control. And I ballooned. I went from, I think I was about 150, 160 to, I ballooned up to 215 pounds. And I've shared this photo in the Fitbod community where I'm 48, 52 and 57. And it's a pretty, if I can say so myself, it's a pretty remarkable transformation. But I share that because I didn't always look like I do today. And it took hard work. It took, getting to a point where I was not happy with my physical appearance, with the way I felt.
Yeah.
And as I've stated on the podcast, Fitbod had a lot to do with that. I found Fitbod about, I guess, coming up on 6 years ago. And that really changed the way I approach my fitness routine. So getting sober and getting a really solid fitness routine where I go to the gym every single day.
Yeah.
There are no days that I take off. And I might take a day and do stretching and cardio, but I keep fitness at the forefront. That enables me to do everything else that I do.
Yeah. Would you say it's kind of exchanging one addiction for another or a bad addiction for a healthy addiction? It is. Yeah, it's amazing how you can get addicted to, fitness and even going to the gym. And I never would have thought that that'd be something I'd.
Not necessarily in a negative way, though.
No,
I mean,
and that's
just,
no, you don't have.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like I've reached the point where I'm like,
it just becomes part of your routine.
Yeah, and
if
I don't get it in, or if for some reason I can't get it in, I'm like, ugh, which is kind of that same feeling of like even a negative addiction. It's like I need the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well, it comes down to dopamine. I mean, we are human beings, and there's a brain function that happens when we experience something that's pleasurable. Something chemically happens in our bodies, and it's the very same chemical reaction that happens when I drink and drug. Yeah. That as when I work out, and I don't get the same level of high, but it's certainly something that's super pleasurable for me. Yeah. I get to the gym, I set some hard goals, I continually increase the amount of weight I'm working with or the number of reps, and it just works for me. Yeah, it's just a program that works.
Well, and it's never too late to start. Like, it proves that it's never too late to start. This wasn't something where you say started in high school and this has been like an entire lifestyle journey for you necessarily. I mean, you mentioned that it was in your 30s and you starting with running long distance. Like, you started with one thing and then it kind of evolves throughout the way. But just that fact that it's never too late to start. You don't have to just settle for your current position and think that this is your path in your life that you have to go down. Like you have the power to do what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think people feel locked in. I'm very much focused on a growth mindset, right? So we really can achieve amazing things. We don't have to be what we were yesterday.
Yeah.
And it starts with setting goals and achieving them.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm a follower of David Goggins. I'm sure you've heard of Goggins. And I just heard him on a podcast, and I'm just so inspired by him every time I hear him. But he's a little more extreme.
He's very extreme, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm curious. So both of you are fit, and you're working a fitness program. Have you experienced the feeling of being addicted, or just really kind of plugged in and not wanting to take a day off?
I think yes, and I think I am a little bit more predisposed to, kind of like you, Michael, like extreme behaviors, or when I'm doing something, I'm going to do it all the way, and so I can pour that into negative habits, or I can pour that into something positive. And so I have seen in the last year, when I kind of don't get that fix, if I don't get a run in, if I don't, at least do a light stretch or lift any kind of lifting or anything, I can feel it. I feel off.
Yeah.
And you kind of crave it and you want more.
And for me, it's mental. Like my mental condition follows my physical condition.
Yeah.
And if I find that I'm slacking off in the gym and I'm not or taking days off, I just don't feel right mentally.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that impacts my work. So I do work a ton. So in addition to the Fitbod podcast, I do another podcast for a company called MongoDB. And that's a software company. We offer a database platform. And I spend most of my time talking to other developers about how they're building things, what amazing things they're building. And then I also consult for startups. So I work with startup companies and I advise them on the platform that they're using for software development and for data. And I pretty much work 24/7. When I'm not sleeping, I'm thinking about work or doing some type of work. So all of that stuff becomes possible when I'm physically fit.
Yeah.
And you've got that dialed in, and you've got your plan. And I would say that I'm not as in it right now, just with my stage of life. But if I kind of reel back to like the beginning of what I would consider my fitness journey, like I was working 80 hours a week, traveling for my corporate life. And the moment for me was I was sitting in airports and I was watching, like I could see the future me. I'd been on the road traveling, doing my corporate life 10 or 15 years down the road. And I just would see people in their suits with their suitcases in the airports, and they looked miserable. They were overweight. You could tell they were stressed out, like all of the things. And I was like, is this going to be me 10 years from now?
Yeah.
And it was this moment where I did not want to go down that path. So I found a program just for something to give me purpose and a structure. Or, you're traveling and you're on the road. So it's like, how do I do this? Do I, have to pack my meals and take them with me? Can I find healthy alternatives? Like, how do I eat at restaurants instead of just ordering whatever I want, or grab and go, or, so just some sort of structure to help me make a plan. And that very quickly turned into the program I was using. They were big in fitness competitions. And so I have a athletic background. I was a collegiate athlete. I had signed up for a marathon at one point because that's what I started doing too. I thought, you just graduate and then you start running distance. That's all you see people running. They're runners now. Okay. That's just what you do. So I did that, and then I'm not built for running. So I was like, okay, we're probably not going to do that anymore. Then I was like, what do you do? And because I had always had structure around my activity. And then I found fitness competitions. And so there was a period of time there for a while, then you get into doing that kind of programming, and you have to be pretty specific with everything, and it was a lot of fun for a really long time until my competitive side really came out. And then when I wasn't winning, it was crushing me. And you go from being so proud of yourself of everything you accomplished to not finishing the competition the way you want to. And then you're just like wrecked. And so I was like, okay, maybe this is time for me to figure out how to be a fit normal person, but not a fit competitor. And we started having kids, and life is just crazy now. So, there's definitely a need right now to find some mommy structure with working out.
Some balance.
Some balance, some very good balance, and
I'm going to start training Sarah here
Right, yeah.
pretty soon.
Before you know it, the tables are going to be turned, and Kaylee's like, I got you. So, but I
Open
definitely,
the line.
yeah, I am definitely one though where the way you move or your routine definitely plays into the rest of your day. So I'm not a very good person where I'm like, okay, well, I'm only going to lift on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because then on Tuesday, Thursdays, I don't feel the same.
Yeah.
You know, I am definitely somebody that's better with a very consistent routine on a daily basis. Yeah. But right now it's just, and I like to be a certain time. Mm-hmm. My ideal time would be like 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Well, that just doesn't work with my current schedule. Right. So
she's not currently addicted to
I'm not really currently addicted to that right now, but I need to be because you feel better.
Yeah, you do feel better.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm curious what your thoughts are on, I know earlier you mentioned the growth mindset. Do you think that everybody is capable of reaching a point where they can get to where they have a growth mindset? Or do you think there are, especially with addiction, are there lost causes?
No, I hope not.
Yeah.
I really hope not. Yeah. I think some people are just constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult thing.
And that's the difference. That's the difference between somebody who can, get into recovery and somebody who doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I think if I could offer one thing to the listeners, if there are people listening that are struggling with addiction, I think take a look at the consequences as a result of your drinking or using or the lifestyle you're leading. Are there negative consequences, things that you're really not happy about, or the people close to you are not happy about? And if the pain is great enough and you want to make a change, to answer your question, I think anybody can get sober.
Yeah.
I think it just takes, you just have to change one thing, everything. especially if you're really addicted, it could be really challenging. But the disease of addiction is threefold. Okay, it's mental, it's physical, and it's spiritual. It's physical first. When I pick up a drink, when I take a sip of wine, something happens in my body that doesn't happen in the body of a normal person. Like it triggers an allergy, and I just want more. Mm-hmm. And it's scientifically proven.
I've heard that.
I won't get all like medical on it, but there's these dopamine receptors in your brain. There's two classifications, more than two, but the key are the D1 and the D2 receptors in the brain. And in the body of an alcoholic or an addict, these receptors don't work in the same way. The D2, I think, I might be getting these backwards, but the D2 is responsible for shutting down. So when a normal person takes a glass of wine and they start to feel woozy and they go, okay, this is good, I'm done. That's because the D2 receptors kick in and they're done.
Yeah.
They're done. But in my body, it's just go. I only get go signals. I only get the D1 receptors. So it's physical, right? But if it turns into this mental obsession, if I don't pick up a drink and I don't have a solution in my life, I obsess over drinking. Like I would do insane things like I'd be white knuckling it, trying not to drink, and I'd be in a social situation and I'd be counting other people's drinks and focused on what everybody else is drinking. And it's not really great to be around.
Yeah.
So I always say when I'm controlling my drinking, I'm not enjoying it. And if I'm enjoying my drinking, I'm definitely not controlling it. And that's a tough place to be. So then that's where the third leg of the disease comes in, and that's spiritual. I believe that I'm drinking and drugging to overcome this like not comfortable in my own skin feeling. And that's spiritual in nature.
Yeah.
So when I nurture my spiritual condition, I find that I don't have to pick up a drink and I don't struggle with drinking. I can be in social situations and be completely fine.
Yeah.
There are many programs that can help people get and stay sober. Mm-hmm. And the one that worked for me introduced me to a set of principles. So as I work through the program, I work principles into my life and I clean up things. I fix where I've messed up in the past, and that enables me to feel really good about myself. And then I help other people, and that kind of cures this spiritual malady that I have. So on a daily basis, I just don't feel like I have to pick up a drink or a drug.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I did not know a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very informative for me just to understand some of that happening. Cause I do from a trainer, and that's been my kind of more of a hobbyist trainer, if you will, is my background. Like I did go to a continuing education training once, and that was specifically about obesity, but I do think it applies to this topic too, is just for fitness professionals, trainers, people that are trying to help somebody that's, battling with that, just to have some empathy, to realize that there's other things going on. Like, it's not just the simple answer of like, well, just don't drink it. Yeah. Like, there's actually physiological things that are going on, and just to be empathetic with people, where they're at in their journey, their story, all that kind of stuff. So that was.
And I think there's definitely a stigma associated with it. Like, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm a drug addict," like, you feel differently about them. I mean, it's just society. Yeah. But I don't think it needs to be that way. And I think that's really the primary motivation for me sharing that I am in recovery. Yeah. I probably don't look like a drug addict, right?
Right. Well, and it is, somebody, I do have a loved one that is in active addiction and has been, for my entire adult life. And that's as a loved one of an addict, it's so hard to watch them go through that. But it's also so, even if it's not them that makes it to recovery, it is nice to see that other people can. And that's, I guess, kind of going back to why I asked you if you think there's lost causes, because the person I've been watching, it very much feels like a lost cause. And I'm like, why can't this person get to the point that you got to,
Yeah.
Do you have to hit rock bottom, or, is everybody's rock bottom a little bit different?
Everyone's probably different. I mean, I'm not an expert in this area, but to me, it just seems like, I mean, obviously the person's the one that has to make ultimately the decision, right? Because it's the changes that have 100%. To come.
There's nothing you can do to convince an addict to change. And it's a very sad thing to watch somebody go through.
Yeah, that's the sad part. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd encourage listeners, like, if you're curious, if you're sober curious, reach out.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. For sure.
So, Michael, how can people find you to learn more about you, your personal story, connect with you? I mean, if they heard your story and feel that connection and want to, see if they can get help or whatever, how can they find you? Instagram, social media, website, anything like that?
Social media. Yep. I'm on X, Twitter at mlynn, MLYNN. And I'm on Instagram, mlynn_stagram. So mlynstagram.
I love it.
And hit me up. I think the DMs are open. So feel free to hit me up on either of those platforms. You can send me an email. I don't know if you guys include links in your show notes.
Yeah, we will.
We will.
I'll include a link to my email address.
Perfect. Yeah, send those over to us, and we'll definitely link them into the show notes, and that way people can check that out and connect with you, follow your journey on social media, and just kind of keep taking this conversation forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd love to, if I could, take a minute and just encourage folks to check out the Fitbod app.
Yeah.
Yep. I know you've had Jonica and Gio, my co-host for the Fitbod Built by Fitbod podcast. It's just a great platform. You know that because you've been on it.
Yeah.
So maybe your listeners will be familiar with it. But the Fitbod app, as I mentioned, absolutely enabled me to transform the way I look at fitness. And if you're not familiar with it, it basically feeds up. How much do you talk about the Fitbod
We've
app?
talked about it quite a bit, actually, through Kaylee's journey.
Okay. I won't bore you.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, this is great, because now here's another proof point from somebody else's perspective of how they found it, why, and how it definitely is showing that it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
Because it is very flexible and can solve a need.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's great. And then also definitely check out their podcast. It's Built by Fitbod, because they do talk to people and have other transformational stories and things like that of people sharing what they've went through. I mean, ultimately they've all connected through this app that gives the workouts and all that jazz for personal journeys, but then there's that connection because you've got that to talk about as well. So,
and it's a great community. I mean, I've met
it's great.
Obviously a lot of great people.
Yeah, they're super great people. And there are just be curious about people's journeys and just have empathy for where they're at, and just be a kind person and supportive, because I think that goes a long way. Don't assume anything about anyone because everybody of the way they look. Story. Everyone has a story. And
we appreciate you sharing your story with us. And I commend you, Michael, for everything that you have overcome and accomplished. And it sounds Like it's all good things. Everything sunshine and rainbows in your life now, I'm sure.
Well,
Not true. Not true. I just crashed my car.
Oh no!
I totaled my car.
Oh no, Michael.
Yeah, it's sad, but
I'm
now
glad
I
you're
get to
okay.
buy a new one. So
Yeah, well, there you go. You get to go
fine.
shopping. But yeah, so congratulations on the upcoming 10-year anniversary then for being
oh,
sober.
thank you.
So
Yeah,
that's
appreciate that.
that's coming up
Yeah.
here then for you. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Your story is very
Thanks for having me.
inspirational. So
Really
yes,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Well, maybe we'll have a chance to talk again sometime soon.
Yeah.
So
Great.
there we go. That's
Thanks
all we
again.
got.
All
I
right.
think that's all we got for
I
today.
think so.
So until next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. Be sure to head over to our Instagram at Nacho Fitness Coach and let us know how you feel about the topic. Do you love it or hate it?
Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening. And if you like our podcast, leave us a rating. See you next time.
You've been listening to Euphony Innovatives Sonified.